everyone, welcome to my channel. My name's Taylor. Today I wanted to talk to you about some books I read back in May. I know it is basically the end of June pretty much, and I'm just now putting this video out, but it is my very first one, and I have tried so many times to film this video. I keep having technology issues where it won't film, or people keep interrupting me, and the angle's not quite right. So I'm just gonna roll with this one. So I hope you don't mind anything that's wrong with whatever. So I'm just gonna roll with this video and hope for the best. I participated in the Christian Readathon, Christian fiction readathon hosted by Katie over at Paperbacks and Ponytails. And I've never participated in a readathon before, so I was really excited to participate in that one and finish all the prompts. I did double up on a couple of them, but I did it. So the first one that I did was Christy by Catherine Marshall, and this book I did for the prompt of longest book on your TBR. And I kind of cheated a little bit because I read this book a couple of years ago. At the time, I was not a Christian, and I don't know why I didn't think of it as a Christian fiction book. I may have just forgotten over time that I did know that, but whatever. I read it at that point, and I enjoyed it then, and I had read it initially because I grew up watching the TV show, Christy, with Kelly Martin, and I wanted to see if the book was similar, and I remember, though basically the only thing I remember is that it's similar to the show and I enjoyed it. So I picked it up this time because I wanted to reread it and see what I think of it as a Christian now. And I didn't know that it is the basis for the Christy Award for Christian fiction. I think it's just Christian books. So that's really cool. And I think it's really deserving of that distinction of being the mother book of that award, because it was awesome. I rated it 4.5. It is about, if you don't know, who signs up to go to a mission in backwoods Tennessee to become a school teacher. She is completely unprepared. She's never been alone before. This is set in the early 1900s. And so she goes out there, and this town community is really isolated. She has to take a train to get to the closest town and then walk 7 miles from there. They're really isolated, and the people are very stuck in their ways and really weary of outsiders and distrustful of them. And so she has to earn their trust and also try and figure out her faith along the way, because she grew up Christian, but she wasn't ever really very much invested in her faith. So she's kind of figuring that out along the way, like how her relationship is with God and like how she is sharing that with the people. So that was really interesting as a new Christian. That was really helpful for me, seeing her struggles with that. There are two potential love interests in this book, and one of them is a preacher, David, and his faith story is kind of, you would expect him to kind of have all the answers as a pastor, but he definitely does not. And there was one point where he was talking about how Jesus's miracles are kind of questionable, like he didn't really know what happens in heaven, it really he didn't believe. So I was kind of frustrated by that, but then I get the whole point where he was kind of forced into seminary school by his family, and he didn't really truly believe, and you see a little bit of his faith progression too, trying to figure that out as well. The second love interest, which is Neil, the doctor of the town, and he is a non-believer, so you also kind of see that too, all the different perspectives, which I thought was really interesting. And I listened to the audiobook, which I was listening to it, and I was like, this voice sounds really familiar. And it was actually Kelly Martin, the girl who played the Christy in the TV show. So that was really cool. I highly recommend this book. Second book I read for the readathon was Wooing Katie McCaffrey by Bethany Turner. And this I did the prompt for flowers on the cover and having romance in the book as well. And obviously you can tell it's contemporary romance. It's a really cute cover. But this is about Katie and Will, and they have been in a relationship for 4 years, and they met via a meet cute, and they've been going pretty steady and they love each other. Then about a year ago, Katie thought Will was going to propose, but he didn't, and so she's felt that their relationship has kind of gone downhill from there. She still loves him very much, but she feels like that their relationship is going nowhere because both of them are Christian, and the whole point of being in a relationship, if you're a Christian, is to find the person you want to spend the rest of your life with. So she doesn't see that he's really taking the initiative to really go anywhere. To her, he seems pretty happy just the way they are. So she decides to end their relationship. And so this is about the story of them, how about him wooing her, them kind of coming back together, I guess. So it was a really cute book. I really enjoyed it. It was a really light, fun read, and I rated it 4 stars. The third book I read was In the Shadow of Croft Towers by Abigail Wilson. And this book I did for the May Murders prompt. And this is about Sybil, and she is a lady's companion, and she is the story starts off with her traveling to her new employment position, a coach. It's set in the Regency era, and her stagecoach gets robbed, and so she survives that encounter, and she comes to the place of her employment, and they don't really know why she's there except for the mistress. She kind of sent for her without telling anybody. And so she's kind of trying to figure out the mystery of why she's there, why her employer is asking her to do certain things. And 2 of the passengers on the stagecoach that she was traveling with, they end up dead. So she's trying to figure all of that out. So I really enjoyed the story. It was interesting. There was kind of a 2-part mystery, and one of them I did get and the other one I didn't. Was a little bit of a surprise, so that was good. And there is a romance in here. It was kind of surface level for me. I wanted a little bit more. The main thing I had trouble with was it's a Thomas Nelson book, and I thought it was Christian fiction. It was clean, and I've seen a lot of booktubers talk about this where you expect it to be Christian, like there to be faith in a Christian fiction marketed book, but there wasn't any. The only thing I mentioned was that they passed by the church or something. That does not make it a Christian fiction book to me. Because I think there were plenty of opportunities where she could have been like, God, help me through this situation. I don't know what to do. Guide me, help me, She could have prayed a lot. Like, there could have been so many opportunities for that in here, but it didn't happen. So that was really disappointing for me. So other than that, like, the storyline was pretty good. So I rated it 3 stars. These are the books I read for the Readathon, and the only other prompt was a new to you author, and that would be, I was kind of both of these. So those are the ones I read. I also read a few other books as well. I read the Bradford Sisters romance series by Becky Wade. I don't have the 2 first ones. I read them through ebook. The first one is about Nora, and she is a librarian, and she's really good at researching genealogies, and she meets this guy named John, and he has just found out that he has a certain medical diagnosis, and he needs to find his biological mother. And so Nora helps him do that, and so it's about kind of a little bit of a mystery. I really liked the first one. I rated it 4 stars. It was pretty good. I enjoyed it. It was, I'm not the biggest contemporary reader, so I kind of judge it a little bit more harshly compared to fantasy. In my mind, like in fantasy or sci-fi or something like that, it's not firmly rooted in reality, so I can kind of forgive some things that might not be realistic. But with contemporary, I'm like, no, this is happening in our world. I don't think that would happen. So I'm really kind of more picky about contemporary. But anyways, that's a whole soapbox. But I can see how Nora and John meeting would be a God thing. So if it wasn't a Christian fiction book, I probably would have rated it lower because of their meeting was kind of really convenient. But I could see how it would be a God thing. I enjoyed that they both prayed for help. Like, they both were really, they're both Christian, and they prayed and let God guide them. So I really enjoyed that. There was one part where John was like, well, Nora's very quirky, and she kind of reminds me of myself a little bit because I'm kind of more like if you're watching this video, you can relate probably, but like book nerd, like I would totally have a book cottage or whatever she had. And I love vintage things, and I love baking old recipes. I love that. That's me. So I really identify with Nora, so that's probably why I liked her character a lot in the book, because of her. But it was really kind of a little annoying to me that John kept saying, oh, why would you say that word? Oh, you used such a big word. Like, he kept, like, I can get like maybe once or twice, but it was more than that. And so I found that a little bit annoying, because I say words like that. She uses big words. I use some, I don't know. It was just that was a me thing probably. But all in all, I really enjoyed the first book. And then the second book, Falling For You, yeah, I'm looking at my notes. Falling For You, I liked a little bit more than the first one. I rated it 4.25. I'm really surprised that I liked that one the best out of all three, because it is about a football player and a model, which I feel like are two of the professions that I do not like. I do not care for sports, especially football. And then there's no way I would ever be a model. So those were really outside of the box for me. But their actual character development and their romance was really, really good. But that story is about Willow, and she's the model, and she and Corbin, the football player, they were in a relationship and something happened and they had a really bad breakup, and so now they're put together again. They have a mutual acquaintance and they're in each other's lives again. Corbin's niece, she found a family secret, and she found out that Corbin knows Willow, and she, as one of her role models, so she asked Corbin to introduce them and have her help them solve this mystery. And there's a whole like backstory, like it makes sense. Like, it sounds kind of really convoluted when I say it, but they're trying to figure out a disappearance in her family. There's also a home renovation part of it, which Corbin was renovating his house, and I identified with that because we've been renovating our house for forever. Since we bought it. I think one of the things that really why I liked this one the most was Corbin's character. He was a new Christian, so I really, really identified with how he was trying to learn the Christian faith and how kind of reconcile how things were versus now, and kind of learning, how to live now. And there's a part where he's kind of helping his dad with his faith and kind of feeling unqualified to do so because he is such a new Christian. So I really identify with that. I think there was a really good message there. And then the third book, Sweet on You, is about the youngest sister, Britt, and her longtime best friend, what's his name? Xander. Xander has loved her for forever, and she's kind of been completely unaware of that, and so she starts to have feelings, and there's also another mystery going on where they're working together to solve this mystery. Xander's uncle, who is basically his foster dad, like he adopted him basically, he dies unexpectedly in kind of weird circumstances. They're trying to figure out what happened to him, and so there was the reason he died. I kind of had a little hard time with it because I felt it was really unrealistic. I don't know if it was because I told you I'm not a contemporary person, so I don't know if I was burnt out by the time, because I read them all in a row. I don't know if I was burnt out from contemporary romance by the time I got to this book, but I was kind of feeling like almost tired of reading the story. Like I personally thought that the situation was a little bit too much of a stretch, but it could have been just I was just burnt out. So I don't know, one of the two, maybe both. But I rated it 3 stars. I did love all the chocolate. Britt makes chocolate for a living, and it goes into her chocolatiering and all that, and I thought that was like food. I enjoyed reading about that. but overall it was an average read. The last book I read for May, Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. This is like coming home for me. I have grown up watching the A&E Jane Austen my whole life, I feel like. I've watched it so many times. It's very, very comforting for me. Just I can quote it, you know, I love it. So I've only read the book one other time besides this time, and I really wanted to go and see, you know, what I thought of it a second time through. And I cannot tell you enough, if you have trouble reading Jane Austen, because the way they talk back then, I feel like it's really hard. So I personally, I like to read it with the audiobook so I can hear it and I can see it, the words at the same time, so that really helps me. And then the A&E version, it's basically the same thing. There's only a few minor differences, but they really helped me to visually see it before I read it. I think Mr. Bennet is one of my favorite characters because he is so funny and sarcastic. I love Elizabeth's character. I wanted to be Elizabeth when I was little. She's so independent and, I don't know, just such a strong spirit and sure of herself. I love this book. It's probably, as much as it stayed with me in the story and all that, probably 4.5. I love this story though. It's a good book. It's a good story. Watch the TV show. So that's all the books I read in May. Let me know if you've read any of them and what you thought. I look forward to seeing you again in the next video. Bye.